Hi, this is your instructor Daniel Chang, and this is for Mech and Vehicle and for Rio Honda College. This week, we're going to take our 3D model that we built out from last week, and we're going to add detail and fully paint it out in Photoshop. Before we bring it into Photoshop, um, we need to set up some renders for our 3D model, and that's what I'm going to teach you right now. So, remember last week we had covered scenes in SketchUp, and that's this button right here, the sort of the clapper board with the little play button on there. That's scene. And so what you want to do is you want to find a view that is really nice, sort of a nice three-quarter view, kind of like how we have here within SketchUp. Now, there are going to be some issues with this view. As you could see, the frame that we made completely obscure bits of the background. The other thing too is this console right here. It totally obscures our character's joystick area right there. Now, I mean, there's a couple of ways you could work around that. One way is to just like try to hide a bunch of assets, but um, but SketchUp also has this nifty tool called the cross section tool. Now, the cross section tool, you can find it under your toolbar on the left here under these three dots. And over here where it says this logo, how do I describe it? It's like a circle with the letters C, A, and 5 in there, and it's called section plane. So you could click on that and it'll pop up, here. But you could see what it does is it's trying to determine where on your asset do you want to put in a cross section plane. And it could be applied, flat straight on, kind of like, how it is here, because it's, straight on. It's got this color to it. Um, or you could actually apply it based on like an existing diagonal thing that you have already. So, for example, if I have if I want to approach it kind of diagonally, I think one way might be to take this diagonal window and use that as a reference for my cross-section plane, right? So as soon as I left click, it's going to plant a plane in here, and I'll show you what that looks like right here. Now, the inside of my geometry will now show up as black, right? But if I zoom out here, you should be able to see, see, it's taking into account everything that is in the scene here. And if I were to click on this and go over here to the move tool, I can actually push and pull against this, and you can see what's happening on the screen here when I do that. It's actually moving sort of like, I don't know, like a laser cutter or something that kind of goes across everything here. And it's a very neat tool, especially if you want to show diagrams, right? Um, and so all I really need to do is to take it about as far as like, where I don't really see the planes anymore on the framing right here. So I just want to push it as far as to make those frames disappear, right? And then I'm going to come back here to scene 3, and if I double click sort of out here, because the plane's kind of out of frame, but when I double click out here now, it's double clicking to show that section plane. And you can see if I double click again, the plane disappears and I could see the frame that's covering everything. If I double click again, now um, now we can sort of punch a hole right through the thing. And after I do that, like, find an angle that you like, right? Something like this is a good angle for the 3/4 view. Once you do that, you come up here to this clipboard here, clapper board here, that logo, and it's got a little sort of recycle button on the bottom right of it, and this is to update the active scene. So what that does is, this little menu will pop up is like, hey, what do you want to update? Everything. I want to update everything, and hit OK. And so now when I say go from this view, right, down to, oh, I don't want display. Yeah, when I go from this view down to this view, that plane comes in and just cuts the front of it. Okay. And so now we want to figure out how do we get rid of how do we get rid of uh, the the sort of front console here, right? And the best I could think of is if we made another plane but coming from the front. So let's double click on this so that that's disappeared, and then we'll cut something coming from the front. So I'm just going to come here to the section plane tool. Remember, it's the circle with the CA5 on there, and I'm going to click on that front, and then choose that move tool so that we can, wait, oh wait, am I moving the wrong thing? Yeah, I'm moving the wrong thing. Let's see. Yeah, see, I want to move this thing. See, if I zoom out, you could see. I want to move this thing so that when I move tool it, see how it cuts the front of this thing. But I want to stay in this view here. So this is the tricky part. I want to select this thing out front if I can. Come on. Can I select that? Yeah. So now it's cutting the front, and now I want to change to the move tool, and we're gonna cut off his legs a bit, a little freaky here, but we're gonna cut out parts of his leg. Now the frame on the front side here is back now, right? But at the very least we have this part gone, and we can now see the joystick, we could see the other hand, and the stuff that's on top of the armrest on the other side now. And so after we do that, I want to scroll down. Oh, by the way, this is mouse wheel. You can scroll up and down this in case you're like, oh, it's off screen. What do I do? Yeah, mouse wheel scrolls this up and down. And then now on a new scene, you can actually create a new scene, right here with this add scene tool. You could just hit that and then it should add a new scene down here. Let me get rid of my old one that I did as a sample. Oh, by the way, I think on these scenes, yeah, you can actually grab them and change out the order if you want. But so notice how here's a very important thing to realize. Oh, I accidentally changed that plane. Let's do this again. I'm gonna do that and then move this out until it just barely gets rid of our frame that's sort of covering our character here. And I'm just gonna update this again. I kind of undid it when I accidentally moved it with the other one. So now I just go to active or update active scene, right? So now it should change from this to this, right? As you could see, it changed back and forth now um, between these two without moving the camera position. And that's very important, is for us to actually go back to the same camera position, you know, um, so that when we overlay these two images on top of each other in Photoshop, we can erase away one and keep the other in parts, right? So we could actually get a version that has both the console missing as well as the outer frame here missing. I'll show you that real quick right now. Um, in order for me to show you that, let's render out this shot right here. And the way we do that is we go up here to the lines, these three lines up on the upper left, and we go over here to download. And on download, you can either download a SketchUp file, which is, kind of how we save. Um, but you can also download the PNG. A PNG file is like a higher resolution decompressed uh or yeah, decompressed version of a JPEG, right? So it's just an image file. So I'm gonna hit download for that PNG file. It'll bring me to this menu. It shows me how many pixels I want it. And if it's fairly high res enough, I got it at 3,800. You could always up by clicking on the arrows there. Um, and maybe I just would probably keep the settings if you can, right? And then hit export as PNG. And larger images may take longer to export. I understand that. Don't show me this again. I'm going to hit export. And you should be able to find this image now on your downloads folder, which will be right here. If you bring in a folder, and let's see, over here under downloads, this one is what I just rendered out like that. Okay. And then I want us now to do that other image real quick. So let me hide that. Let's go to the one where, the console in front of us is missing, as well as our character's legs here, right? And now we do the same thing. We go over here to the three lines, come down here to download, and go to PNG. And now we'll render this one out and export it. It doesn't take that long, so I don't understand why they even bother asking, like, hey, it's going to take longer. It's like, it didn't take that long. All right, I'm just going to refresh this now, and so now I've got these two images that I just rendered. Okay, so now I'm going to go into Photoshop here, and this is Photoshop, and I'm going to bring this is kind of what we want as an end result. So that's a preview. I'm gonna hide these two. I'm just gonna bring those images in so that we can get a better look at this. Okay. Yeah, the way you bring in the images is you select this, hold down shift, you select that one, so both of these are selected, and you drag them onto your Photoshop. And it should pop up as these tabs, and you can drag them down and get them free floating. Now, if you just with the move tool, right? If you just pull these images into here, it's going to be offset. It's not going to be centered or anything like that, right? So what you want is actually if you want to drag from one image to another, say for example you want to drag this one without the console onto this one, you want to hold down shift. So if you hold down shift and drag it over, it'll settle right at the same spot, right? Especially if the two image files are the same dimensions, okay? Otherwise, it'll just put it dead center. And so this is what we want. The top image here, we could see on our top image here, we have what? We have a bit of the frame covering our our the back of our cockpit. And on the top here, we don't have the front of this cockpit. And so what we want to do is we want to mask out the parts that we don't want from this image so that we reveal the image that's underneath here. Um, so we have this hiding underneath this, right? You could see by the opacity, if I were to ghost it in, you could see how these two images lay on top of each other. Now, I mentioned this thing called masking. What the heck is masking? Well, masking is like erasing, except you can reverse the effects of masking um, by values. So let me show you. Right down here, there's a little tool. That's the layer mask tool. And it looks like, well, it kind of looks like the Japanese flag. It's like a rectangle with a circle in it. You want to choose the layer you want to mask, which is this one up top. And then I want to click on that. And immediately this little window pops up on the side of it. That window is the mask. Okay, right now, nothing's masked out. And the way you mask things out is while clicking on this, because you could click on either the image itself or the mask that's applied to the image. So I'm going to click on the mask that's applied to the image, which is this rectangle that's right next to it. And the way you mask out stuff is you paint it a darker value. If you paint it sort of a light gray value, sort of like right here, it'll fade out about 50% gray because that's, or 50% opacity because that was 50% gray. If I were to paint black on there, then it'll mask it out completely. You can see here it's being painted out completely like that, right? And so you could come in and you can actually mask out, say, this outer part here so that we can see, the back of his console a lot better. And you can, you know, hide and unhide here to kind of see the difference, right? And let's say, for example, oh, I didn't want to like mask out the top of that. Well, you can just switch this back to white by clicking on the little sort of two arrows thing over here on the left side. And then you can actually paint back in your frame so you never make a mistake. You can always correct it, right? You can always correct your errors this way. And that's what makes masking better than the eraser tool. Because with an eraser tool, once you erase it, it's gone, buddy. You know? So now what we want to do is we want to maybe mask out like the front of this console right here. Remember how when we rendered it out, we had sort of like the front of this thing, right? And so I'm just gonna mask that part out and maybe parts of this part down here too. And notice how my brush here, I'm using like a soft round. And what that'll do, because it's soft, it kind of like gives me a bit of a fade. If I were to use a hard brush, it would actually give me a hard edge when I do this, right? See, like that's too much of the console maybe, or maybe I just want a little bit of that console showing. This can get kind of confusing down here, quite frankly, but let me get that leg back. Yeah, I want to get the leg back in there, you see, right there. And that looks pretty good right now, except this console part. So this console part, let me paint white back in and So yeah, I mean, I totally get how this can get a little confusing after, it's like, whoa, what's getting erased out and what's getting put back in. But all I'm doing is I'm either painting black or white, and when I paint black on the mask, as you can see that little rectangle that's on the right side of this square right here on down here. As I paint black, you can see the black that I've painted in, right? Any case, if I if I painted this out completely, then it's gone. But I what I can do is kind of give this effect like I'm fading it so that we can actually see it. It's almost like a ghosting cut as opposed to like, the harsh cut that we were getting before, right? And you could always like shrink your brush and get something a little bit more uh specific. The hotkey, by the way, to toggle between black and white here is X. So if I wanted to hit X, I can always paint this part back in. And let's get the console, at least the top part of the console in there, so that we can kind of see. And in general, what you want to do is you want to kind of do a pleasant gradient, meaning like not something that's too complicated. You want something that's just kind of softly going from one thing to another, right? And so I'm just going to paint out sort of the top of this like that. And that looks like a pretty good, wait, let me go back, paint this part back in. Cool. That looks pretty good, right? I can, I mean, he's missing one leg. That's the one further away from us. Um, but overall, like now we can see both the through the frame as well as through the console, and this could be the image that we paint over in order for us to work on this scene, right? We can do the same thing with our cockpit view. So let's do that. Let me hide this thing right here. Oh, by the way, save. Okay, so this will save as a PSD file, hopefully. And so I'm just going to call this cockpit. I'm going to call it cockpit uh, sort of cross section, maybe cross section 01. Cool. Save this out, right? Cockpit cross section 01. And then we'll go over to the front view now of our of our scene here. And remember, we did render out our front view before this. It looks something like this. Um, Over here, the hand is in the way as well. So maybe you might want to render out one version that has this hand here and another version that doesn't have the hand here. That could be a way that we do that. And so doing that way, we can just start off here with rendering out our first image, which we have this scene selected. So the scenes are actually how we need the layers to basically be from the same camera. The scenes are how we do that, right? This is how, because otherwise, if I move the camera even just a little, like the masking thing's not good, that trick's not going to work because it's going to be slightly offset from each other. So you just got to make sure that you establish your scene first here, and then you start rendering out your images, because otherwise, it's you'll never be able to move the camera so that it's perfectly aligned. It's easier just to figure out your scene first. Okay, so I'm downloading this as a PNG, all right? And it's downloaded. Very good. And then I want to download another version of this. Now I have my character outside of the component, which is great. So I'm just gonna right click, like after, I select my character and right click on the character and then hit hide. And that character should be hidden. And now I'm just gonna render out real quick another uh, download PNG. And so this will be the version that doesn't have the character in there. Yada yada. It should be done quickly, soon, hopefully. Shouldn't take that long. Oh boy, it's taking a while. Let's see here. See if it actually did it. All right, yeah, it did. It's just lying to me. All right, bringing in these two images now. You know? So, I mean, for the most part, we probably don't even need the hands in there, honestly. Um, this version is actually great for us to work off of. Um, this is just kind of a bonus if I mean, honestly, these hands don't look great. That's another reason why I'm like, I don't know if I want the hands. So maybe this will be what we paint off of. So, yeah, it's okay. I changed my mind. All right. So let's like close out all the other stuff first. Um, this is one where I've already started working on it. Let me close that out too. Let me close this one out so that we're left with this and this. So this image I really like because we can actually work off of this. Let me shrink it down, put it off to the side. And I think from here we probably don't need SketchUp open anymore. But I just wanted us to know how to set up our, oh, let's get out of this. Well, actually, I think because I think I saved. I hope I saved. I don't know. It seems to, this is the problem. I remember I had mentioned, um, before with SketchUp is when it's the web version, that can crash on you. And this seems like it's crashing on me. So let me just reload this site. And that would have lost my save if I haven't saved, but you know, that's the good thing is it doesn't take that long to actually redo that work. All right. Any case, I'm just going to close out my web browser with SketchUp on there. After once we have our things set up, the next thing we need to do is start collecting a bunch of reference so that we have an idea as to what these things should look like, right? And whether we, you know, directly use these images to kind of help us with some of the textures, or we make our own. Um, that's going forward. It's like so like for example, it's like I could probably use aspects of this for my joystick right here. You know, um, yeah, you just want to make sure that the lighting conditions are similar. So yeah, you might want to start looking up cockpit reference ideas. Let me go to Photoshop though, and before we even do that, I want us to set up some of these images so that they're ready for us to start working off of. Okay, So one thing here is we sure do got like weird, SketchUp geometry outside of our window frame, and that immediately says like, hey, you're working in a model, right? So what I want us to do is I want us to just sort of select out all this stuff that we have outside here. Hopefully we can. Now, the old school way of doing this in Photoshop is to use something like the Magic Wand tool. They did make something called the Quick Select tool, which it's not always great. Um, let's try the Magic Wand tool again. Yeah, Magic Wand tool is just kind of what I'm used to. Um, I'm old school like that. So the way you do this is you hold down Shift to additionally select things. So I'm just gonna hold down Shift and tap on. And the wonderful thing about SketchUp is, you know, your objects already come with an outline that Photoshop can actually determine like, oh, you want that selected. Okay, so let's you know, select within. So basically, I'm selecting the part that I want to cut out right now, actually. So it's like everything that's on the outside of my window. And you could see it's not a perfect, that this magic wand tool doesn't do a perfect job. So you also got to come in with the lasso tool, which is over here, L for lasso. I'm just going to zoom in here. You can see how the magic wand tool missed some of this red stuff right here. So, and still holding down shift, I want to select this, you know, this stuff, the red right there. Let me zoom in, make sure it's got the selection on that. That's good. And the big deal here is I have these images, the concept images of my cockpit, right? Um, I want to select those as well. So, I'm going to go to the polygon lasso tool, which is sort of like a tap for straight line selection. And I'm still going to hold down shift. And I'm just going to start off over here on this corner here. And I'm just going to tap till I hit these corners here outside of my geometry right now. And if you've got a curve, you just kind of tap like around it with a series of straight lines, right? And about down here. And over here, since I've already selected the outside, it can get a little bit messier, meaning I don't have to go perfectly along the side of here because this is already selected. You get what I mean? So I'm just gonna do this again. All right, cool. Now I want the inner corners of this image. So remember, I'm right now I'm starting off by selecting the stuff that I actually want to crop out. Because after that, then I can inverse select and just grab everything that is, related to the interior of my cockpit. All right, so I'm just selecting this out, and now the image on the left side here, I'm just gonna select out very quickly here. And this is the part where I gotta be a little bit more careful on. And here's a curve, so I've gotta kind of select around that, tapping along the curve. There. Let's see. So I think I've got everything now. That, every everything that would be on the other side of the window, I've select. Oh, I got one more thing. I noticed right here, down here, underneath my throttle. So I can just hit plus. The reason why I used the magic wand tool before was to just as a time saver. But, you know, I could use the magic wand tool on this section here, but since I'm got this tool already. Okay, I think I've got everything. So now you want to inverse select, meaning I've selected what's on the outside, but what I actually want is all the stuff on the inside. So now I'm going to hit control, I think it's control, let's see, control shift I right here. Control shift I. And now that selects everything on the inside. And I hit control J. And now to prove that everything on the inside has been selected, I'm just going to make a new layer between these two. And I'm just going to make it black on that layer. You could see now I've separated this from my previous image. This black layer right here, that's whatever is, I don't know, outer space, you know. In fact, let's do that right now. Let's look up like a cool, I don't know, like a nebula or a planet. Um, let's see, orb, orbit. Let's see, orbit view of Earth, maybe. I don't know. That might be kind of fun to something something like this, right? So I'm just going to right click, hit copy image. We didn't make this image. I understand. But I just wanted us to see what this could potentially look like if we did paint this stuff in. It's pretty cool, right? Really feel like we're in outer space now. Cool. Right there. Now make the rest as cool as that image. Ooh. Any case, so now let's merge the black layer with that cool image of the Earth there, and now we start. We've already created a really cool whatchamacallit, like the silhouette, sort of masked it out already. Now we want to mask out like all the different elements that we want to paint on on um, on this cockpit view, right? So so let me just select. Let's just say let's select the the ceiling here. I'm just gonna select around that. Oh, I didn't get it perfect. Let me zoom out. Just gonna select above, beyond the canvas. That's fine, right? I'm not so concerned about getting things perfect here now because we've already cut this top part out, right? The only parts I'm really concerned about are like where that ceiling meets this support rail right there, right? And sure, I could cut it, and that'll just kind of leave a hole there. But in general, I prefer to just hit Control J and duplicate it. And so then after I duplicate it, let me just kind of indicate that I've done this by darkening it a little bit. Yeah. Oh, how do you darken? Yeah. So you hit Control U, and that brings up the hue saturation menu here. And under lightness, you can actually pull this down. That darkens it like that. Pretty easy. All right. Next thing I want us to cut out maybe are the side rails here, right? So let's there's an easier way to do this big screen. So if I hit F, you can see now I can move this around and see the outside of this window now. So that's and you know you can always toggle it by hitting F again and F again until it's back to this screen. But I like just getting it full screen. I think F means full screen. I'm not sure, but in any case, I'm just gonna tap alongside here and try to get myself a selection. Again, the parts that I've already cut out, I don't have to do. Oh man, did I lose my selection just now? If you double tap, it'll just kind of close off your selection. Let's try this again. There's a little bit of a slowdown right now happening on my PC. I don't know why. I've got a very strong PC. You could see the screen tear as anyways, I'm gonna hit shift again. I'm gonna hold down shift as I select this other rail. That way the two rails are selected together on the same layer. And I just want to close this off now. There. So I've got the rail on the right and the rail or the hand armrest. I've got the armrest on the right and the left here. And now I'm going to hit Control J, and that's also now going to be darkened so I can tell I did something to it already. Okay, cool. Why do I want to do this? Well, if you've ever seen painters paint, they paint out the silhouette shapes of things first, and then they paint the inside of it. And Photoshop's got this wonderful thing where you can actually use the layer as a mask. And then when you paint on it, you can kind of paint outside the lines, but it'll keep it in the lines of whatever you've got the mask on. I'll show you that later, but just to let y'all know, like, this is why I'm doing this. Um, let's pull that joystick out now too. This joystick section right here. Um, I'm gonna try this tool for this. You could manually do it, but they've got a couple of other fancy tools here. Like here, you got a magnetic lasso tool. Let's try that maybe. Um, See how like as I select. Oh, yeah, as I select around here, you could see how I'm not even tapping, I'm just hovering. But it's kind of detecting the line here, and it's weird, but it does a thing. It doesn't get it perfect every time, but you know, you could tap along the way, and I guess I could try to do this fast too, but I feel like I need to do this rather slowly. It's almost like well, it's called the magnetic lasso tool. So it's like there's a magnet that's trying to figure out, like, is that what you want? And then when you get back to the start, it just selects everything. Now we could double check our work to see where it failed. I could see a couple of spots here. So let's go back with our lasso tool here. And I'm just going to hit shift and just going to select these lines back in. It's just because I don't want like these wonky, jaggy lines around my selection. You can see over here has that same thing happening. Some wonky, jaggy lines. These masks are like, they're kind of they're a big deal. This is how people tell if your stuff is digital or fake or whatever, it's like this is kind of hell. See, that magnet didn't really select this perfectly. So you always got to come back and double check this stuff. If you ever work with AI art, you got to do the same thing. Got to check the fingers, make sure that they're not creating more fingers or fewer fingers than you'd want, you know? All right. I think I think that's a good selection of the joystick. And from here, make sure I'm on the layer where the joystick's on it and hit Control J. And I'm just going to darken, Control U to bring up this menu, darken it. And now you can see that my joystick has been extracted on its own layer. Oh, I should label this. Yeah, joystick. Joystick. And then this was the armrests, right? Armrest. And then this was the ceiling layer. Ceiling. It's always good to, like, it'll save you time later to organize these things as you go. Whoa, what did I do? Okay, I want to control, is it control? Yeah, there we go. If you drag, you can actually incrementally zoom in, and then this is the space bar. Okay, to grabby hand it over center. Let's see. Next, I want the console. Yeah, I think I can. No, I want the console, and I want this pipe. Maybe let's make the pipe separate. Yeah, how about that? So let's go back down here. I'm gonna do the console first, and then I'm gonna do the pipe after that. All right. So the console. Oh, if you hit Alt while you're on the normal lasso tool, like this, if I hit Alt, I can go into polygonal lasso. Oh, shoot. I just want the console. I don't want the other thingy. I messed up. Let's try this again. All right. Normal. There's some serious lag happening on my system. All right. And because my joystick has already been extracted, I can just kind of ignore that for now. And so I've got this console thing here. If you've got a messy selection, you can always go back later and cut it, you know, or erase it, or erase out the goods, you know. Oh, come on. This is seriously lagging. Okay. I could see this part's messy, so I'm just gonna. Wow. I don't know what's happening with my lag. I'll go to polygon lasso to be safer. And this is holding down Alt to deselect stuff. Shift is to additional select, and polygon is to, or Alt is to deselect that. Okay, so I've just got the console selected. Let me deselect this sort of window frame. Yeah, I got that. Let me deselect this window frame piece. And this is part of the reason why you want to copy it to a new layer, because you might end up accidentally cutting something out onto the wrong layer. So here I'm just going to hit Control J, and that copies this console now onto its own layer as well. And I'm just going to call this console. Cool. And then we got the little cable pipe thing. I wanted to keep that separate because I wanted to show a trick where we just maybe put a texture over it or something. Okay, so I'll show y'all. A lot of concept art is masking things out. And in fact, um, for say comic book artists who are, colorists, they hire people, assistants. Sometimes they'll hire an assistant to come and create what are called flats for them. And that way they don't have to go through this tedious process of masking every element out of the frame, you know. Um, and so there are jobs out there for people that just want, that it's like an entry level job, but it's just a job to make these little masks out of so let's see here. This is cable. Uh, I think there's nothing on this layer 3. Let me delete layer 3. All right. Okay, last, I want to cut out whatever is like this floor and um, yeah, the like where we put our foot pedals, etc. right here. And again, separate from the window frames, like here. Double click, it's got that all selected. Hit Control J, and then we're just gonna darken that now. And so it's pretty much everything. The section that was our original one that has everything, that'll be the thing we use for our window frames. So window frames. Everything else is laid on top of that. So this is the thing we just cut out here was the floor, I think. Yeah. Oh, there is one thing that maybe we might want to mask as the center, I don't know, center console support thing. Let's cut that out from the floor. Apologies. I'm just trying to think about like what object here is, overlapping another object within my scene. And what would I want, to be defined separate from, and this could be between the joystick and say underneath the cable, I guess, right? So yeah. So I'm just gonna darken this even more so that we kind of can tell. And we called this console support. Cool. I've got these all kind of masked out and ready for me to paint in my next step. Um, but I'm gonna stop the video here. But this is what we're gonna have to do before we start painting is having all these elements all kind of separated out. Okay. And this is going to be very handy. You'll see when we start painting over it. Okay. Thanks.